Hello everyone, this is Teacher Eduardo over here, and now that we've taken a look at Cybermedia, I'd just like to do this follow-up video just to clarify any doubts or any uncertainties that may have been left behind now that, again, you've gone through the material, you've delivered your activities, and again, this video is just to kind of bring the concepts home and make sure that everybody is on the same page regarding cybermedia. So I think the big question here is cybermedia and multimedia. I mean, perhaps that's, as we say, the elephant in the room. Are they the same thing? Are they different things? I mean, where is cybermedia coming from if we already have multimedia and we already understand multimedia as, you know, the multiple items that conjugate to form some kind of material on the internet? Well, yes and no. The thing is, this is more of a specialized term, even though multimedia is used more as a generic concept. So cybermedia would say be more of a specialized term. So in this presentation, I'd just like to go through a few concepts just to help clarify what cybermedia is, how it works, and what relation it has to multimedia. Okay, so let's get going here with the next slide. So cybermedia, let's just put a definition here up front and see what this might be about. Now this is actually translated from an article written in Spanish, so this, don't believe 100% my translation skills, but more or less it goes something like this. It is a process of relating the production and issuing of content and information services through journalistic strategies and techniques which are suited to the demands of the internet. That part right there is so important. Which are suited to the demands of the internet. We're talking about cybermedia here. Providing with it an embedded potentiality regarding the integrated use of various expressive systems. Written, graphical, iconic, auditive, audiovisual, and multimedia, so as to be accessed by users who can follow, handle, or produce other information types and establish dialogues or exchange information amongst them. Okay, so this is somewhat of a robust and rather intricate definition. So let me just point to some key concepts that are integrated in this rather obtuse, if you will, definition. So the first thing here is it's talking about a process of basically producing and disseminating or expanding or sharing of information. So producing and sharing information. Here it's citing specific journalistic strategies and techniques, but let's say it's broader and it's just any sort of technique, and these techniques might be integrated into whatever software or application you're using. So you're trying to produce and share information through an application of some kind. And here's, like I said before, the most important part. Based on the demands of the internet. That means that you have to work within the laws of the internet. You can't work in the laws of the real world. It has to be within the laws of the internet. So that's super important. And because it has that context of cyberspace, of internet, of the web, it embeds or inserts or includes certain potential elements of how text is used, of how images and photos are used, of how icons are used, and you get the picture, auditive and audiovisual, which are videos. Also the insertion of multimedia, just to kind of get it a little crazy there. So multimedia within cybermedia. And so you create all of this and you put it on a platform so that new users, because you're a user on your own, no matter if you're a student or a teacher. So you create this and you put it on a platform so other users can come, work with it, handle it, and share it on their own. So all of that is more or less the process that this is talking about. So it's quite a big process, but let's break it down and take a step back and just kind of get a big picture of what we're talking about here. So first, the internet. Now, it's a very common misconception that we use the internet to refer to the online space. We kind of use the internet as a quick concept which integrates everything. However, it's not really the case. The internet, in a strict sense of the word, does not necessarily refer to the digital space, which is what you're seeing here on your computer screens or on your mobile devices. The software, the video, the intangibles, that is not the internet. The internet is all of the physical hardware. So as we have here on the screen, this refers, it could be a server, which is a super powerful computer, or it kind of also leans towards being like some kind of a modem or channel of connection. Here, hardware is both of those things, the server and the modem. This kind of implies a Wi-Fi modem. And it's connecting the signal, the air signal, or the wireless signal, is also part of what the internet is, the hardwire. The physical laptops and the physical mobile devices, that because they're connected, or more so they're interconnected, they are now part of what is the infrastructure of the internet. So once again, the internet is all of the physical connections between the servers and the personal computers. So the internet, if you kind of look at the word here, is made up of two parts. Inter, right here, inter, which means to like interconnect across or with other. So that's kind of what it means, like interpersonal with other people. And then net, which is a short form of network. So an inter-network of computers. It's physically the computers, the cables and the signals and the modems and the graphical interface, well, the graphics cards, the motherboards, the hard drives, the mice or the mouse, all of these physical elements that connect physically the hardware across the entire world, that is the internet per se. So it's all of that physical hardware infrastructure. All of the databases, which are, or the data centers more so, which are these enormous hangars, like bigger than airplane hangars. They house thousands of computers, and they're just saving information there. So that, all of that infrastructure, physical infrastructure, is part of the internet because it helps to connect all of the computers. So that is the internet exactly. Even though we use the term internet kind of like to mean it all, to integrate everything, but strictly that's what it means. It's the interconnection of computers and servers. Now, the web, on the other hand, that is the software. That is the graphical interface that you're looking at right now on your physical device. Your physical device is connected to the internet through a wireless connection or perhaps a cable. Right there, that's the hardware, that's the internet. But you turn it on, and then the software loads, and it shows you something on the screen. That information that is being shown to you, in this particular case, this presentation with the video and the subtitles at the bottom, all of this is the web. It's the software that it's coming from the World Wide Web, which is actually the full name. We just call it the web because it's faster. So the web is what is running all of the servers and all of the computers, and is helping to to kind of bring all of the connections to work together. All the physical connections, they need a software to tell them how to connect, and that is the web. The web is basically programming. It's just programming on one server, programming on another server, and then the people that made the programs also include how those servers talk to each other. That conversation is programming. That is the web, per se. We don't see it like that, perhaps, because as users, we just see the the graphical interface, the icons and the menus and the mouse pointer, and the videos. That's what we see. But behind all of that is a lot of programming. So that's also part of the web, the programming and the actual physical, digital and graphical interface, the user interface. That's the web. And the web also includes all of the web addresses, which is like www, that's worldwideweb.facebook.com. www, which is like worldwideweb.google.com. So those addresses are part of what is the web as well. It's all of that. That's the package. So if we could kind of make an analogy here or a symbol, the hardware or the internet is the bones. If it were kind of similar to a person, the internet, the hardware, the connections, the physical ones, are the bones, the corporeal structure of what is the internet. And the web is like the mind. Not so much the brain, because the brain is also a physical part. The brain would be the servers. The mind, which is the thinking that's happening inside of the brain. Your consciousness, if you will. So that would be the web, the software. And those are the two differences. Once you understand those two parts, I mean, it's pretty simple after that. So last point here, internet, physical stuff, the web, all of the programming, software, the user interface, the graphical interface. So here in this graphic here, we have not the computers and the devices connecting physically, but the platforms and the services, right? Like eBay is a platform which offers a service through their platform. Amazon is a platform and it offers a service through their platform. All of this is programming. It's user interface, graphical interface. Facebook, Google, right? Verizon, Microsoft. What other ones do we have here that are more or less Tumblr, AOL, if you remember back in the day, Flickr. All of these are services that are programmed. Software. That is, and it's uploaded into the interconnection of the servers with the computers, and together we just kind of call it the internet or the web, but technically speaking, it is two different things. Right. So moving forward here. So think of the internet and the web, just to kind of put a final analogy here. If you ever saw the movie The Matrix, there's they more or less kind of show the difference between what would be the internet and what would be the web. Now, in some parts, specifically in movie number 1 of The Matrix, the first movie, there's a part where Neo kind of wakes up, or they make him wake up after he takes one of the two pills, and he wakes up in this spaceship, what appears to be a spaceship of some kind, but then ultimately he figures out, or they tell him, that, well, he has this sort of connector at the back of his brain, at the bottom of his brain, and they have to connect him with a cable. That right there would be the internet, the physical connection that is being created so that they can access what is in his brain. To input information and also to download information to and from his brain. And then at a different point of the movie, when Neo is discovering all of this, of what the Matrix is and whatnot, Morpheus and Neo, they come together in what they call the loading page. What's it, the loading platform? Something of that. And right here, they're already kind of in the Matrix. They're inside of the software, or they're inside of the computer, if you will. So the picture that we have on the top here, where they're actually doing the physical connection, that's the internet. And over here at the bottom, where Notice how everything is designed. There's a specific interface. The interface is how they look, not just what they're wearing, but their physical appearance, what assumes to be their physical appearance, but it's, again, software. All of that would be the web. So just to kind of, if you like that movie, if you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. It's a great movie. So moving forward then to multimedia now. Now, multimedia is part of the software. That is, it's part of the web. The program, the user interface, the graphical interface. That is where the multimedia lives. Now, today, or in current times, we think of multimedia as related to technology because that's kind of where we see it all the time now, or we come to that understanding. However, multimedia does not necessarily have to relate to technology and the web. It can be outside of the web. Because look at what the elements that we have here on the screen. So to talk about static elements, we have text and graphics. In graphics, we could also include diagrams and photos. So there you go. But dynamic elements could be video, animation, and audio. If you think about it, we really don't need any part of the internet or the web to reproduce these elements. And not just that, to combine them. Because when you combine them is when you get multimedia. If you have just one, it's only media, which is singular. So for example, if we take a look at a newspaper, a printed newspaper that you can go right now and buy at your corner store, that, if you analyze it, is multimedia. It's text combined with graphics, hence multimedia. It doesn't live on the internet, it doesn't live on the web. It's physically, you can have it in your hands, yet it is multimedia. What about, to get a little more intangible here, what about a radio program? Well, you might say, well, I can't touch a radio program like I can a newspaper. Is that multimedia? Well, technically it would just be media because it's only audio. You only listen to it. So when you combine more than one sense, so if you have audio and your ears and your eyes, or your ears and touching, then it's multimedia. But here it's only listening. So it's just media. It's the radio media. But fair enough. But still, notice how it doesn't need the internet. It doesn't need the web. Radio has been around for over 100 years, way before we had an interconnection of servers and computers, way before computers even. We already had the internet, and it was a media. So, again, you may understand that multimedia belongs with the internet, but really it doesn't. It can live without it just fine. Let's get a little more complex. What about the television? Now, that's taking like the radio to the next level, because now you're adding visuals, which is the audio visual. So all of the TV programs, all of the movies that you watch on your television, not your smart television, which may be something that is more common nowadays, but just your average television that you connect with the cable provider, that you flip through the channels with your remote control. That is multimedia. And it doesn't need the internet, it doesn't need the web. It's still multimedia. And television has been around since the early 1900s. And then it has evolved very quickly after that. Yet it is multimedia, way before computers, way before the current technology that we have, and yet it is multimedia. So I just want you to have clear that multimedia does not necessarily relate to the internet, does not necessarily relate to the web. Multimedia is just combining any of these 5 elements, text, graphics, video, animation, or audio. Combine 2 at least, and you have multimedia. And it can be in the real world. It can be a magazine. It can be a poster, right? It can be a billboard even, right? When you're driving down the street and you see these huge billboards with visuals and text, that's multimedia right there. So multimedia doesn't rely on the internet, doesn't rely on the web. Multimedia is just any combination of these 5 elements in any reality or digital space. It doesn't matter really. Now that we've more or less clarified that part, okay, think of combining now multimedia, the web, and interactive or interactivity. Combine those, and now we can start talking about cybermedia. Notice how it's changing. The moment that we put this element, right, the web, the graphical user interface, the software that is coming from the World Wide Web, which is the biggest interconnection of computers has ever existed. Once you connect that with multimedia, with interactivity, now you take multimedia and you take it to the next level and you call it cybermedia, because now it's a specialized term. It's multimedia specialized. So this means that, going back to the definition, if you remember, that it's multimedia, or it's all of this media that's bound, that's limited by the parameters established by the internet, right? That's cybermedia right there. So just to talk about some practical examples here. For example, an infographic. Here we have an infographic. Now, to be fair, infographic is more or less like a poster that you can print out. So in the sense, an infographic, if we're kind of strict to the words, an infographic is multimedia in its initial intention, perhaps. But when perhaps your intention is for it to live only on the internet or only on the web, then it is not just multimedia, but it is cybermedia. It is media for the cyberspace. The cyberspace is the web. Let's get a little more strict or more explicit in examples of what cybermedia is. Because an infographic is not necessarily interactive in nature. It's just a combination of visuals with text in a certain way, in a certain style, with certain dimensions, and there it is. It's just for consuming information. But what about a YouTube video? Now, you may print or try and print a YouTube video, but you're really not going to get the same effect as if you reproduce it on the web. You get the actual video on the web. That right there tells you that a YouTube video is definitely cybermedia, because if you print it, it doesn't work anymore. Whereas an infographic, if you print it, it still works because you can still consult it. So an infographic can be multimedia, but it's also cybermedia. A YouTube video is specifically cybermedia because, and for this specific element as well, because notice at the bottom you have controls that you can interact with. So you have a reproduction control, a fast forward, volume. You can skip by pressing on the line here, and you have all these additional controls to toggle on and off, quality of the video, if you're going to screencast it into a smart TV, if you're going to go full screen or small screen, if you're going to turn on or off closed captions. So all of these little controls give an additional layer of interactivity to this video. So this video goes beyond it just being something that you can see on the television, because even if you see this video on the television, on your traditional television, it takes away these controls, and now it doesn't work anymore. I mean, it works in the sense that you can watch it, but you can't go full screen or small screen. You can't turn it on and off your closed captions. You can't screencast it. You can't change the quality. You're limited to many other things that a TV just can't do. Whereas on YouTube platform, it provides this additional layer of interactivity, and by clicking certain things, you get certain actions and reactions based on how the platform is programmed to work with the video. That is what makes it cybermedia, as a clear example of being cybermedia. The video with that layer of interactivity thanks to those controls. And then I don't know if you've noticed, but every time you watch a video on YouTube, you get this little little banner that comes out here on the corner. That also layer of interactivity, because if you click it, it'll do something. It'll give you some kind of reaction as well, which if you watch it on the television, on the traditional television, then you lose that. You can't do it anymore. So that is why this is specifically cybermedia. It is multimedia created specifically for the web, not to be printed, not to be watched on television, but to be fully appreciated on the web. And that's where it actually works as it was designed to work. Yeah, it'll work on the TV, but not in the same way as it does on the web. Another example, so I think everybody's familiar with presentations, and perhaps PowerPoint being the most popular. We also have Google Slides. So all of these we can call cybermedia. But I think the best example of a cybermedia presentation is what you can do with the emaze software. This is a web software or a web tool, and this is because it lives on the internet, or well, it lives on the web. See, even I kind of use internet interchangeably. But unlike PowerPoint that you can download to your laptop computer or just your computer, and you can work offline, emaze, just like Google Slides, they live on the web. You don't download them. You just have to turn on your browser, go to their web address, and now you can use their application, their software. Whereas again, PowerPoint you have to download. So the things that you can do with emaze are really cool in relation to the interactivity levels that you can accomplish, because you can include animations and clicking in certain regions to do certain things, and you can insert audio. It gives you all of these facilities to integrate all of these different things that you can do with your presentation, so that when your audience is watching your presentation, they're not just passive, but they're actually having to integrate, to interact with whatever you created in your presentation. So this, far beyond PowerPoint, even far beyond Google Slides, I think emaze is a great example of cybermedia. Because again, you may print all of these independent slides, but if you print them, then you lose the interactivity part, and thus it is no longer cybermedia. It is just multimedia. But if this works online and you watch it online, you get back all of that interactivity that you programmed into it. And now it is cybermedia because it is specifically made to work and function in the cyberspace or on the web, on the World Wide Web. Another example of cybermedia is a podcast. Now you might go, well, a podcast is in essence a radio show. It's a radio program. A radio is basically an audio, something you listen to. So how can this be cybermedia if it's just the same as a radio program? Well, yeah, in essence, yes. If you just look at the audio track on its own, then yes, it is exactly the same to a radio program. What makes it cybermedia is the application used to listen to the radio program. Because the application, in this case here you have this on a mobile device, you have an application, and just like YouTube, which has the controls under the video to do different things, the application offers you a series of controls. Here you have the track bar, so you can skip to different sections of the audio program. You have fast forward, rewind, you can skip certain seconds, you can pause and play. So these elements right here on top of what the audio is, the combination of these two things is what makes it cybermedia. Again, notice how that interactivity degree comes in and elevates it not just to media or multimedia, but to cybermedia, because this is specifically made to work within the confines of the cyberspace, of the web. Thus, it is cybermedia. Take it outside of that space and apply it like the reality rules, and now it's no longer cybermedia. It's some other kind of media. It's just media, perhaps, because it's only audio. So again, the difference between a radio program and a podcast, a lot of it has to do with the application you're using to listen to the podcast. The application will give you those controls that are interactive in nature, allow you to interact with the audio to do certain things and get certain reactions. That interactivity characteristic is what elevates it to be cybermedia. And last example here. So this is kind of like a combination of two things, because, well, to a degree. Nowadays, you may be familiar with smart boards, not the traditional whiteboards or green boards or blackboards, but a smart board. And this one right here is one developed by Google called a Jamboard. You may want to watch some videos on YouTube on Jamboard, Jam as in Jamboard, Jamboard, and look at what they can do with this sort of interactive smart board. Here we can see some of the things that they can do. All of this is digital. Nothing is pasted on. Nothing of this is paper. So like this yellow thing looks like a posted paper, but it's not. It's actually digital. So you can work with photos. You can work with notes, like post-it notes. You can work with drawings. This is hand-drawn. Text. Here you have more text, visuals, and you can even watch videos, GIFs, all of these interactive elements. And this is kind of like the latest. All of this is cybermedia. It is kind of like the pinnacle of where we are right now, integrating a big, it's basically a big mobile device. It's like a huge television screen, but it's made for conferences and education, and it kind of brings all of the media that is specifically made for the web so that it can be used in a conference or presentation-like environment. Again, all of this that you see on the screen is cybermedia. Okay, so cybermedia and multimedia. After this rather long rant, are they the same? Yes and no. To some extent, they are the same because ultimately they are media. It's media and media. One is multimedia, one is cybermedia. But media, they are both media. It just depends on where you are accessing it. Are you accessing it through a television, through a printed newspaper, through a radio station in your car, or I don't know, is it a magazine? Is it printed? Is it kind of tangible in some way? Then it'll very likely be multimedia. However, on the other hand, are we talking about something that, okay, we're not getting we have another graphic here. Are we talking about something that is made for the web, specifically for the web, where it's not just the video, it's not just the audio, but there's a layer of interactivity through controls and buttons that you can press to get reactions and have it do something. If it's made for that, specifically for the web, for a certain application, then it is cybermedia. Is it multimedia? I mean, in essence, yes it is, but that it is made specifically for the web is what makes it cybermedia. Remember that another name for the web or the World Wide Web is cyberspace. So everything that exists in cyberspace is cybermedia. And we can be called also cyber users or cyber people. So again, it's kind of like the same, but specifically for the web. That is kind of like the huge difference right there. And because it lives on the web specifically, it is confined by whatever rules apply to the web. So this means that it has all of those elements of I can share it based on the current characteristics that we have on the web. So I can consult it or consume it in some way. I can interact with it directly with my mouse pointer, or if I have a touch screen, I can touch it with certain regions and have it do something. I can share it. I can share it through email, through a social platform. I can bookmark it. I can do all of these things with it. All of that is what makes it cybermedia, that I can do all of those interactive things. Take it outside of that environment, of that cyber or web environment, and it stops being cybermedia, and now it is only multimedia or just media, depends. Okay, so hopefully this additional presentation explanation will help clarify the difference between multimedia, cybermedia, and how they interconnect or live within the confines of what the web is and what the internet is. All right. With that said, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.